Hi everyone, it's Onier Oscar here, and today I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different, and that is why I hate my ranked teammates in Valorant. So, for a little context, I went on a brutal 6-game losing streak, and at around 2 a.m. in the morning, I snapped, and I wanted to find out why I thought my teammates were so shit. So, here we go. Why do I hate my Valorant ranked teammates so much? I find myself constantly screaming at no-face personalities through a muted mic, swearing to God Schmitty from Barstool Sports is hopping on his first Valorant game of the night. In my eyes and in the heat of the game, I feel so superior to my ranked teammates in every tactical and mechanical way. Every play they make, I silently critique it while thinking that if put in the situation, you could separate my gameplay from a recording of tens. And although it might be slightly true, in my skill group I tend to push my team and ascend the ranks, nonetheless, my ideology towards my own team is cruel and not mentally feasible if I plan to play ranked mode in video games ever again. It struck me after a brutal 6-game losing streak that having a hate boner from my teammates wasn't going to fix anything. As I reviewed my match stats, I began to wonder, out of the 6 games, 1 I was match MVP, another I was team MVP, and 2 others I had a decent if not over average performance. But still, these sure as hell were not the stat line of a second coming of Valorant Jesus who's a dick to all his teammates. I started to consider the fact that I was a narcissistic sociopath with a gaming god complex who could do no wrong. But before I completely became the next Light Yagami, a study I'd seen somewhere on the internet popped into my head. A survey concluded that 76% of drivers think they're Mario Andretti. I don't know either. I just looked up the best driver. But 93% admitted to unsafe driving habits. Truly an enigma. It's an all too familiar case of everyone being over average, or the Dunning-Kruger effect, a hypothetical cognitive bias stating that people with a low ability at a task tend to overestimate their ability. To tie this back into video games, specifically games like COD, people always think they're the shit, and God only knows how, but in most of the games, every COD player has a positive KD. How the fuck does that even work? Well, it's pretty clear. Like any other means of entertainment, we're meant to be, well, entertained. We're constantly told through ranks, achievements, and rewards that we're the 1%, the gamer genetics freak who is untouchable by any other. And this bullshit that they feed us, we eat it up, because it's like shit that looks like pudding. But apparently shit tastes good, because we don't doubt ourselves for 1 second. You see what I'm getting at? No one thinks they're bad at anything they care about at least, because of 2 things. 1, they need to think they're good, or they're wasting their time, and 2, they get spoon-fed shit pudding that they enjoy the taste of. But to continue my 2 a.m. crazed rant, I don't think this is the only piece of the puzzle. In fact, I think it's only half. By relatively covering the reason why every gamer thinks they're over average, we still need to crack the code on why our teammates are so shit. Let's dive in. My first question is, have you ever been shit-talked by a teammate performing far worse, or vice versa? It doesn't make any sense, but in your crazed gamer brain, your shit teammate is the X to your equation. Now, I think this conundrum can be broken down into 2 pieces. Firstly, it's far easier to critique others than yourself, especially when caught in the raging storm that is Valorant Ranked. Although there is conflicting research on the topic, I'm going to go ahead and cherry-pick this study for my agenda like any other entertainment outlet. In a study done by Epley and Whitchurch, I hope I'm saying that word right, people were seen to rate themselves far more attractive than they actually were. When shown computer-generated images of themselves, some being more and less attractive by certain standards, science jargon, blah blah, who gives a fuck. Point being that we humans look at ourselves in a favorable manner. But even more interesting in the study is what is said soon after. I quote, "The researchers took pictures of study participants and using a computerized procedure produce more attractive and less attractive versions of those pictures. Participants were told that they would be presented with a series of images including their original pictures and images modified from the picture." Unquote. What strikes me as interesting is how participants, when shown the altered and original photos of them, they tended to choose a more attractive version of themselves. But when shown pictures of strangers and then altered photos of those strangers, they actually chose the correct one. Psychologists called this self-enhancement. Even touched on in the source article, most people think they are over average, which is, well, funny at the least. Very clearly, both parts of this study relate to gaming. We look at ourselves as ultra chads who can do no wrong, even though our performance truly isn't all that. And at the same time, our teammates, even if close in skill level or better, seem like Helen Keller who got her hands on a PC. With data found on the study, if we can assume it's relatively congruent with video games, that would mean our teammates aren't shit and we aren't all that great. It's more like we both fall somewhere near each other. In fact, the way we perceive our teammates' skill is probably far more accurate than we think, meaning we are most likely far worse than we think. And I quote, "For example, people overestimate the amount of money they would donate to charity while accurately predicting others' donations," unquote. This wraps up the section on our warped perception on our own skill level. Now to the second theory on why our teammates seem so bad. This one is far simpler to understand and to explain, thank God. It's quite simply, humans never want to take the blame for anything. In fact, in any unfavorable outcome or situation, there's always a finger pointing the other way. The first thought that now comes to mind is the anti-vax movement that claimed there was a connection with autism. Now, I don't mean to make any direct comparisons, simply of the mindset in the human thought process. So, let's address this connection. First and foremost, there are no connections ever backed by medical research that came to a conclusion with a tie from vaccinations and autism. See the third link in the description. So, think of it without any reasonable evidence, scientifically with any link. People in a difficult situation having a child or friend with autism need a scapegoat or someone to blame, so to fit one agenda or another, someone offered the idea up and it was pounced on. It's the same for our teammates. With no reasonable cause besides our perception, we jump to the chance to blame someone or something, and our teammates seem to be the most convenient and sensible to us. So when you take a hard look with an equation of everyone's mentality that they are over average because of spoon feeding through game, and our psychological distortion that makes us perceive ourselves as simply better than others, combined with finally our need to point and push blame to not leave a tragic occurrence up to destiny or truly being beat, leaves us with our hatred for our Valorant ranked teammates. Although I feel like I'm fucking Einstein finding E equals MC squared, it really isn't too deep. And although it may seem there's no way to escape the hate boner coding in our brain for our ranked teammates, let's remember that blaming them doesn't help anything, and if you are in fact at a higher skill level, then simply give them advice, lift them up. We can all strive to stop being toxic, because we've all been on the receiving end of the blame. Thank you so much for watching the video. If it was a little sloppy, I'm sorry about that. This is the first video that I've done kind of like this. I thought it was a little bit fun. I may do something like it in the future if you guys enjoy this. But yeah, be nice to your teammates, guys. Later.